So now the cooking method we're going to look at is frying. And you can fry all sorts of cuts of meat, but we're going to look at frying a sirloin steak today. Some of the best steaks are the simplest, and today we're going to serve it with a really easy peppercorn sauce. For the peppercorn sauce, we have 6 tablespoons or 90 ml of cream. We have 1 tablespoon of brandy, 15 grams of butter, 1 clove of garlic crushed, and 1 teaspoon of mixed peppercorns, lightly crushed. So now to the steak. What we're using here is a sirloin. There are other steaks you can use for frying. You can use fillet, which is a little bit more tender than a sirloin, or you can use ribeye or Pope's eye. And Pope's eye is more commonly known as rump steak. Look here as well, you can see that there's a marbling of fat in the steak, and that actually gives flavour to it. Cooking a steak can be a bit daunting, and I've got a really handy tip for you. If you want to cook your steak rare, medium, or well done, it's really difficult to know without knowing how thick your steak is and how long it needs on each side. So use your hand, put your thumb and forefinger together, and feel this little bit of your thumb there. When your thumb and forefinger together, it's very soft and quite squidgy, which is quite similar to the feeling of steak when it's rare. Move to your second finger, and that is a little bit firmer. That's more medium rare. Moving on to your third finger, again, it's even firmer, and that's a medium to well done steak. And if you use your fourth finger with your thumb, that feels like a really well done steak and is very firm. So now we're going to cook the steak, and as I said earlier, it's imperative to keep it simple. First of all, you need to heat the pan on the hob. Use a heavy based frying pan because it conducts the heat better, and it needs to be really hot before you add the meat to it. What I'm also going to do here is use vegetable oil. I'm not going to put it in the pan, I'm actually going to put it on the steak before I put the steak in. It stops the oil getting too hot and smoking. You could use olive oil or butter, but butter tends to burn very quickly, and olive oil doesn't heat up quite as hot as a vegetable oil. It's also important to note that you shouldn't season meat too early before you cook it. The salt tends to draw the moisture out of the steak. So now we'll season it on both sides with salt and pepper. Not too heavy on the salt. And then we'll put a little bit of vegetable oil on each side. And just smooth it over with your hand. Hopefully the pan should be hot enough now. And what you want to hear is a real sizzle when you put it in, like that. We're going to cook the steak to medium, which means it'll take maybe 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes on the first side before we can turn it. It's also important to note that you should only turn a steak once through the whole period of cooking. You can turn it more often, but it won't be as tender. So we'll just wait a minute till this is ready to turn. What you want is the meat to caramelise on that side. So you want all the natural sugars to come out and really impart flavour into the meat. And now I think that's ready to turn. And that's what it should look like on the other side. All the flesh and the fat should have taken on a golden appearance and appear caramelised. So now it's about time to start checking whether it's medium or rare and how far cooked it is. So I want a medium steak, so use your middle finger and your thumb. That's still quite squishy, so that's actually probably rare at the moment. So we'll just give it a few minutes longer. What we'll do is we'll get a plate ready, because when the steak's cooked, we'll remove it from the heat and allow it to rest a little bit before we eat it. So that's it now. It's ready to come off the heat. Turn off the hob. And as you can see, it's caramelised not only on this side, but on the other side too. We'll then put on a plate and cover with foil to keep it warm. allowing it to rest, and we'll get on with our sauce. Use the same pan that you cooked the steak in. There's a lot of residual juices and flavour. There's no need to get a new pan. So turn the pan on to heat it, and into that pan we'll add our butter. Allow that just to melt a little. Then into that we'll add our garlic and our peppercorns. You probably want this to be on about a medium heat or you'll burn the butter. I'm just breaking up the bits of garlic here and spreading them over the pan. And by doing this, we'll be taking all the flavour out of the pan and putting it into our sauce. Once the garlic's a little bit cooked, and it's going slightly translucent and your butter's all foamy, add in the brandy. Watch at this point because it'll bubble a lot. And you only really need to cook that for 1 minute. And what we're doing here is burning off the alcohol and leaving us with the flavour of the brandy. Once we've done that, we'll turn off the heat and add the cream. The residual heat in the pan will cook the cream and allow the sauce to thicken. If it doesn't thicken, you can always put your sauce on a very low heat just to allow the cream to cook a little and thicken before you serve it with your steak. So that's our steak cooked and our sauce ready. And we're now going to serve it with chips and some seasonal vegetables which I prepared earlier. Now, just bring in the steak here, which is the time to rest. And we'll just transfer that to our serving plate. And if you want to, you can pour some of these juices over the steak as well. At the moment though, I'm just going to pour over some sauce from our pan. And there's really enough sauce in here if you scrape it for 2 portions. So there we go, sirloin steak with mixed peppercorn sauce.